stance is, or if your fighting stance is grabbing a collar and grabbing a sleeve, and then the guy doesn't have a collar and a sleeve, then your fighting stance changes. And if your fighting stance changes, man, that's everything. You got to fight a whole different way. And if there's no collar or sleeve to grab, how are you going to control him? The only way is with body locks, double underhooks, overhooks, head and arm from the top, which I call homie control. And if you can't control their body with a clinch, you got to go 2-on-1s and control the arm. You know what I mean? So that needs a lot of work. You can't just switch just because you understand that you have to switch. Yeah, if they don't have a jacket, yes, I'd go, I'd grab overhooks and underhooks and head control. Yes, I understand that. Doesn't take a genius. No, but do you understand that that takes a long time to master those clinches and being able to move in those clinches and being able to set up sweeps and submissions with those clinches? Yeah, anybody knows how to do an overhook. Everybody. But there's a giant difference between a 10th grade wrestler who's pretty good at wrestling, been wrestling since 6th grade, now he's in the 10th grade, he's got an overhook, he's standing, compared to like Dan Henderson's Olympic style overhook. If you had a picture of each one, they would look the same. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between Dan Henderson's overhook and some 9th grade wrestler. You know, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But as an athlete, you know that there's a world of difference there. You just can't see it from a picture. But you have to spend years with that overhook, that simple position. So anyway, when I first started jiu-jitsu, I didn't think I could play guard. I thought my legs were too short. So right away, I didn't play guard. I was always playing half guard. Got into lockdown stuff, and quarter guard stuff, underhook game. I was all about a sweep called old school sweep, which is just underhook, grabbing the foot, half guard, all half guard. I actually didn't think my legs were suitable for anything guard, because Royce Gracie was like 6'1", 6'2". I thought, he's tall. Jean-Jacques, tall. He played guard, he's tall. I got short little Mexican legs. So I didn't think I could play guard. What ended up happening was, when I was a blue belt, I was in the finals of the Santa Cruz tournament, the US Open in Santa Cruz, and I was going against Dan Camarillo, who's the brother of Dave Camarillo. Both back then in the West Coast scene, everybody knew Dan Camarillo and Dave Camarillo, the brothers there. They were black belts in judo who came in and started training with Ralph Gracie in San Francisco, and they were blue belts, but they were black belts in judo. So everybody knew. They were like, you know, you don't want to, as a blue belt, you didn't want to go against Dan and Dave Camarillo. They were training with BJ Penn. This was the early days of Ralph Gracie. So I'm in the finals with Dan, and I'm in his guard, and there's like about a minute left, and one of my instructors, Renato Magno, who was one of Jean-Jacques' right-hand men back then, he was the ref. So it was tie, and he was going to give me the match. He told me, if you would have just stayed in this guard and not done anything, I would have given you the match. You would have won. But what I ended up doing in the guard is I tried to get out. I tried to posture up, and Dan armbarred me. And that scared the shit out of me. That was like Jaws for me. Like for me, that was like, oh my God, the guard is the most dangerous position ever. It just scared the shit out of me. And my arm was hurt for like a couple months. I'm like, that was like watching, you know, when you watch Jaws, you don't ever want to go in the ocean. Like you watch Jaws, you want to keep your kids from a life of scuba diving, have them watch Jaws a couple times at 8. They won't be there. You don't have to worry about them going deep sea diving and shit like that. So that's what it was for me. The guard is like, oh my God, this thing is so, I was between his legs and he armbarred me. So, and still at that point, I didn't think I could play guard. But what ended up happening was I would end up in armbar positions. And from the armbar position, when they're on their back, there's a triangle right there. So I started doing triangles from the armbar position. Like I'm trying to get an armbar, and then I would triangle. So I got pretty good at triangles from the spiderweb position, which means they're on their back, armbar position. I got pretty good at triangles. So then every now and then in the full guard, I put out a triangle, and I'm like, man, maybe I can play guard. Maybe my legs are long enough to play guard. So then I really started diving into the guard. Late blue belt and purple belt. That's when I really got into the guard. Still in the gi, did very little no gi. There really wasn't a no gi at all. The only time we did no gi was after class. we'd get a couple guys, take off our gis, and then we'd try to go a little bit, but we didn't do that much. The first style I developed in the gi with the guard was just going after my opponent's right arms. Real simple. The whole gi, no gi debate thing has been going on forever, and it started as soon as I started, I got my black belt and I started teaching no gi 100% of the time. It's always been gi. Everyone asks me, gi, no gi. People are like, oh, how do you disrespect the gi? I'm like, I'm not disrespecting the gi. I'm trying to make jiu-jitsu better for MMA. That's it. I'm not disrespecting nothing. It sounds like I am because I get all this heat and going back and forth, and everyone's telling me I was crazy. Look at all the Abu Dhabi guys. They all come from the gi. And I would say, well, everyone starts with the gi. We're all starting with the gi. There is no gi schools. There was no, there was like Luta Livre in Brazil, but in the United States, you had to go to an MMA gym to go pure no gi. And, and then Roger Gracie after all this. No, first it was Marcelo Garcia. First, I'm the crazy one. And then Marcelo Garcia does an interview, and he says that it's very important for him to, when he trains with the gi, that he uses grips and clinches that'll work no gi. He said it's very important to him. I'm like, it's very important to me too. That's what I'm talking about. He said you don't want two separate games. You don't want a gi game, pure no gi game, and then you go no gi and you can't use any of those techniques. Because you want your gi game to have as many similarities to your no gi game as possible. That way you can go back and forth and there's not such a big difference. I'm like, exactly. And then he said he trains gi and no gi 50-50. And I'm like, oh, that's a little closer to what I'm saying now. So he was the first one. And then Roger Gracie, he says, he has a quote, famous quote, 80% of BJJ is useless in MMA. 80% of BJJ is useless in MMA. In quotes, Roger Gracie. And I'm like, that's exactly what I've been saying. So now Roger Gracie says it. He's saying it. And then Rickson says 70% of BJJ doesn't work in MMA. Roger said 80, Rickson said 70, still the same thing, still close enough. So the argument that the gi and no gi is the same, and Roger and Rickson and Marcelo are saying it's not the same, just like I was saying, it's not the same. Now you look at ADCC now, after a whole generation has passed, new grapplers have burst upon the scene. Now you look at last ADCC, who were the stars? Gordon Ryan, Lachlan Giles, Craig Jones, John Blank got to the Final Four in his first ADCC appearance, never trained in the gi ever. Gio Martinez, first time he did ADCC in 2015, he got to the Final Four. He didn't train in the gi. So now we're starting to see, after a generation, that the gi is not necessary. If you just want to train no gi and you just want to do MMA, you don't have to train in the gi. You can train in the gi. The gi is a beautiful thing. It's prestigious, technical. It's a niche thing. It's like chess. Chess is one of the most prestigious games you can play. The royal family plays chess. But you can't put that on pay-per-view. It's different. It's slower, super technical. It's different. It's a beautiful thing. I'm not trying to stomp out the gi game. All I've ever said was there's a difference between the gi and no gi. And not only that, there's a difference between the gi, no gi with a rash guard, big difference. And then there's a big difference between no gi rash guard and no gi with skin. And then you add punches, it's a big difference. Anytime I have a full, now just imagine it with a gi. I was doing this in the gi. So the goal was to attack this right arm. I never attacked this arm. I was very one-sided. So in jiu-jitsu, if he's in my full guard, the best defensive place for him to be is with his posture up and hands on my hips or even hands on the ribs. But right here, he's in no danger, all right? Now, if I could break down his posture somehow here, the best place for his elbows are right here in the safe zone, not in. If his right elbow is right here, that means I can armbar him. If his elbow's right there, that means I could simply just armbar him here. Boom, right? It's the placement of his elbow that decide whether I can attack or not. So if this elbow is right here in the middle of my stomach, this is the angle of the armbar right here. I can simply, boom, take his arm right there. Now, so the whole goal is to get his elbow in the middle of my stomach, right here, for arm bars. And how are we gonna do that? You know, so the setups are all about that. How do I get his elbow there? One basic simple setup is, you know, if you have a gi, man, there's a lot of setups. You could start with the collar here, and then boom, you could push this in. But however you get the elbow in, you have to travel a long way to get this arm bar here. That's a long way. And sometimes you could do it fast enough, but most of the time they're just gonna pull their arm out. Very easy to pull the arm out. All right, so one basic way, simple way, is to just grab his neck here, like this, and push his elbow to that danger zone. And instead of going for the arm bar all at once, we're gonna take away his escape route. His escape route is to pull his elbow back to the safety zone, and even if I went for an arm bar, he'll just pull his arm out. So that's a problem. So although you can't just simply just shoot up for an arm bar, taking away the escape route becomes more important for me. So as soon as you get that elbow to the danger zone, instead of going for the arm bar all at once, we're gonna shoot up and lock his shoulder. So that now, even though I don't have the arm bar and maybe he's protecting here, he can't put his elbow back in the safe zone. He's in the danger zone now because I locked his shoulder. So this was the origins of my guard game. My whole guard game was getting that elbow in the danger zone, keeping it there by trapping his shoulder, or locking his shoulder rather, and then when keeping his shoulder locked while I'm attacking his arm, either in the guard or by sweeping him to his back and finishing the arm bar while he's on his back, which is easier. It's easier to finish arm bars when they're on their back. So the basic route would be, I got him in full guard, I have his posture broken, I hold his head down, and I push his elbow in to the middle of my stomach. It's in the danger zone. I gotta keep it in the danger zone. There's no space between his head and the inside of my left leg.